Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a reading roundup. Now it's been a while since I've posted a video and I apologize for that. My computer, the screen went all pink and so I had to get that fixed and it's turned into a whole thing that's taking forever. Anyway, I'm back now and I'm ready to talk about some of the books that I've been reading recently. So let's just get started. I read Lost Girls by Angela Marsons. Angela Marsons. This is the third book in the series, the D.I. Kim Stone series. And this book, it was actually really good, but bold. A bold topic to write about, I think. So let me just give you a synopsis of what this book is about. Two girls go missing, only one will return. The couple that offers the highest amount will see their daughter again. The losing couple will not. Make no mistake, one child will die. When 9-year-old best friends Charlie and Amy disappear, two families are plunged into a living nightmare. A text message confirms the unthinkable, that the girls are the victims of a terrifying kidnapping. And when a second text message pits the two families against each other for the life of their children, the clock starts ticking for D.I. Kim Stone and the squad. So, obviously, this is some tough subject matter. These two girls are kidnapped, and the author really isn't afraid to let you know that these girls are in danger. They are in serious danger, with the potential to be hurt. But what is so fascinating about this book and why I enjoyed it so much was how she described the families pulling together at first when their two daughters are kidnapped. They end up staying in the same house together so that they can be together when, messages come from the kidnappers. The police end up camping out in the same house too. So there's this huge, population of people in one household. And to see that group together and supportive and all that kind of thing together until they find out that if they pay up, one daughter will be returned. And then to watch that closeness disintegrate was really fascinating. To watch them pull apart, to watch the mistrust start to grow, and to see kind of who will cave first. And the police are sort of encamped in a dining room. They've made that their headquarters for the case, and they're in there taking bets on which couple will cave first and try and get their daughter back. It's just, it was so fascinating to watch that part. It was also a really good mystery, figuring out who the kidnappers were and then discovering that there was maybe more than you thought at the beginning and who that might be. And then, of course, what the police know and what the families don't know right away is that a very similar thing happened a year and a half before. And so the police knew right from the beginning, or they had a very strong suspicion right from the beginning, that it was a similar case. And so it was really good. And because we also got to meet the parents and the daughter that came home from the first time around, you saw the results of an experience like that and how families behave and kind of try to overcome, or in the case of this one family, the mother, her desperate attempts to keep her daughter safe from something like that ever happening again. Anyway, it was really interesting, and it was quite a good mystery. It is very dark. There is violence, and it is like parts of it were just like, ugh. But it was a fascinating study into human behavior and kind of what we hold most important and what we will do for who is important to us. And so, yeah, so I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. And then I ended up reading a whole bunch of ebooks from the library. So the next few, I'm going to have to find the pictures and put them up on the screen for you. I read City of Lies by Victoria Thompson. It's the first in her Confederate Lady series. It was published in 2017. And this is about a character named Elizabeth Miles. It's set in New York and Washington in 1917. So very interesting time period because the America has just entered the Second World War. And so that's a part of it. But more a part of it is the suffragette movement. And I found that piece of it very fascinating. But Elizabeth Miles as a character is really very intriguing. So the story opens with Elizabeth and her brother talking investments with a man called Thornton, I think. And you discover very quickly within that first chapter that Elizabeth and her brother are con artists. They're grifters. And this man, Thornton, is their mark, and they're trying to take him for a very large amount of money. And they get discovered, and her brother Jake gets beaten up very badly because they want the money back. And Elizabeth has to try and escape from these people, from this hotel. And so she gets out of the hotel, but she doesn't know where to go, how to save herself. And she comes across a suffragette demonstration in front of the White House. So this is currently in Washington. And so she kind of gets herself into this demonstration with the hopes of getting arrested with these women. And that's what happens. She figures that she's going to be safer in jail than on the streets. And so she meets these suffragettes, even though she really doesn't care anything about the suffragette movement. She just wants to protect herself, but she meets various people that become important to the story. So it was a really interesting story. It was a good mystery, great historical fiction, great little look into the suffragette movement, and also the having America enter the First World War. And so I really enjoyed it. It was really good, and I gave that one 4 stars as well. And then I read the Satapur Moonstone by Sujata Massey. That one came out in 2019, and it's the second in her series, in the Perveen Mystery series. And I gave that one 4 stars too. I quite enjoyed that book. It's set in India in 1922. And Perveen Mystery, Mystery, is the first Indian female lawyer. And so that piece is very interesting. I used this book also for my Around the World challenge, and so I'm able to color in India because of this book, so that's very exciting. The book is set in the kingdom of Satapur, which is southeast of Bombay, and Perveen gets sent there because one of the prince of that kingdom, his father has died, his elder brother has died, and so now he, although quite young, will be the ruling prince of that kingdom. So even though the British are still in charge, there were certain kingdom states that were, I guess, nominally ruled by these princes. And so this boy is a prince, and so because he is still quite young, his mother and his grandmother have a lot of power and are arguing over his education. And so Perveen gets sent to go and kind of mediate for them, and she has to go because she's a woman, and these two women wouldn't accept a male coming into their house. And so it was very interesting. There was a lot of really interesting historical elements. and elements of what India was like at that time and the relationship between the Indian people and the British rulers. I quite enjoyed that one as well, and I gave that one 4 stars too. And then I read Death Below Stairs, so I was in quite a little historical mystery kick, but all over the world here. And so Death Below Stairs takes us back to England in Victorian times. And so this book came out in 2018, and it's the first in a series. The main character is Kat Holloway, and she is a cook. And at the beginning of the book, she gets a new job in Mayfair in the house of Lord Rankin. And while she's there, a maid has been found murdered in the pantry. And so it's a very classic mystery in that sense. And Kat, as the cook, kind of feels some responsibility for this maid and gets herself involved. And that one was really good too. I enjoyed that one as well. I gave that one 4 stars. And then I read a book for Amish in April. Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books and Sarah from Steeped in Books were hosting a week of Amish in April, and essentially it was just to read Amish books during that week. And so I've never read one, and so I thought I'd get involved, and I read Fall from Pride by Karen Harper. I've read, Karen Harper has a series of historical mysteries set during Elizabethan times, which I really enjoyed. And so when I saw she had a series of mysteries set in an Amish community, I thought I'd give that a whirl. And so this is the first in the Home Valley series. It came out in 2014, and it's it's not an Amish community from Pennsylvania. It's an Amish community in Ohio. And in this book, the main character, Sarah Kaufman, she has been painting quilt squares on barns, on the side of barns in their community, as a way to bring in tourists, I guess. And the barns that she's been painting these paint squares on, or quilt squares on, have been they're being burnt down. So there's an arsonist, and so Nate McKenzie is an arson investigator. He gets sent in, and of course, as an outsider, he needs a lot of help understanding the community and kind of how things work there. And so Sarah ends up helping him with that. And it was fine. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars. It didn't blow my socks off, but it was okay. I did guess who the arsonist was. Yeah, but it was an interesting introduction into the world of Amish mysteries, Amish literature. And then I read The Hound of Death by Agatha Christie. This is from, this edition is the, it's a Heron Books edition, and so this one has The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding and The Hound of Death in it. And what's great about these editions are the illustrations. I love the illustrations in here. And so The Hound of Death is a series of short stories. Now, these aren't my favorite. I do love Agatha Christie, no question, but short stories aren't my favorite. And so, but I did have a couple in here that that I did really like. Witness for the Prosecution is in here. And there was also The Mystery of the Blue Jar. Here's another example of an illustration. And so, yeah, those were a couple that that I really liked from there, and I gave The Hound of Death 3 stars. Then I read Jane Fairfax by Joan Aiken, which is Jane Austen's Emma through another's eyes. And so she takes the character of Jane Fairfax and writes her story. And I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars as well. I thought Joan Aiken did a really good job to staying true to the characters and staying true to the story. while writing her own story. And so Jane Fairfax, you get the story of her from when she's very little and how she grows up and goes to live with the, who is it that she goes to live with? I forget. Anyways, and so you get, of course, much more of her relationship with Frank Churchill, which is really interesting. And so the first time there was a direct connection between this book and a scene from Emma, I went and grabbed my copy of Emma and did a comparison between the two scenes. And she did a good job. She wrote the same and often like exactly the same quotes and stuff. But because it was from the view of Jane Fairfax, there wasn't a huge amount of that. But when it was necessary, she did stay true to the story. So I quite liked Jane Fairfax by Joan Aiken, and I know that she's done, I think, probably one sequel, let's call it, to each of the books that Jane Austen has written. And so yeah, I'm going to read some more and see what I think, but Jane Fairfax so far is my favorite. And then I read The Case of the Missing Books by Ian Sansom, and this one was good. It was quite funny. I gave this 4 stars as well. This is the reading roundup of the 4-star books. But that's good. I mean, I think it shows that I know what I like, and that's what I read. And so this is from the Mobile Library series. It's the first one in the series, and it was very entertaining. It was very much a fish out of water story, very humorous. And so the main character, Israel Armstrong, thinks that he's gotten a job as the librarian in this town in Ireland. He goes from England to Ireland for this job. It's North Antrim is where this town is. And when he arrives after a really long, horrible trip, he discovers that the library has been shut. And so he goes to see the council person in charge and discovers that he is not there to be a branch librarian, but they want him to drive a mobile library. And so he is, of course, horrified by this, but kind of is a little bit blackmailed into sticking around. And so he discovers where this mobile library vehicle is, only to discover that all the books are gone. 14,000 books have disappeared. And so now it is his job to find where those books are. And the story ensues. It was really good. Israel Armstrong was an amusing character, very much a fish out of water. I mean, he is a city man in in a small town, and yeah, it was really enjoyable, and I gave that one 4 stars as well. And I think that I'm going to end this reading roundup there. So that's what I've been reading recently. What have you been reading recently? Have you read any of these books? What did you think about them? Let's have a conversation in the comment section below, and I'll see you for another video soon. Bye.